Hey y'all. I just kind of wanted to pop in and do a very casual Genshin exploration video where I just kind of chat to you guys. I feel like a lot of my Genshin content recently has been very focused. There's kind of been like one specific thing that I'm setting out to do, and I haven't gotten a lot of opportunity to just kind of chat with y'all about the game and just about stuff in general. So that's kind of what I wanted to do today. I've seen a lot of Genshin content creators do a very similar kind of video recently, specifically talking about how they're kind of demotivated to play Genshin and how they kind of are like burnt out or just don't really have it in them to play a lot of the game right now. And honestly, I feel a very similar way. I don't want to like go super into it or anything just because I feel like all of you have probably heard all of the different grievances people have with Natlan, with just everything that's been happening in Genshin recently, and how people are just generally not super motivated to play the game right now, and a lot of people have a lot of issues. And I definitely agree with a lot of the things that people have been saying, and disagree with some other things, but largely speaking, I do feel a very similar way. Once again, I'm not going to get super into it just because I feel like a lot of the things that I feel I have seen expressed by other people on the internet, and I feel like if you just go and look up, some opinions that people have about Natlan and about modern Genshin, you'll see a lot of the things that I feel represented there. But I will talk about a few things just because I think it's kind of important to voice your individual opinions about games like these, since they are live service and do require generally speaking, the players to interact with the game and enjoy it to make their money. So I do think that it's important that people are opinionated and voice those opinions. With that being said, this video is probably not going to be super edited, and a lot of what's going on screen is probably not going to matter to what I'm saying, so feel free to put this on in the background while you do something else. And let's get started. Well, for me, I think there's one sort of primary thing that's making me kind of disillusioned with Genshin at the moment, and that's really just the quality of the characters that have been coming out. There's a lot that compounds into what my issues are specifically. I think it's probably no secret if you look at my channel and you look at my pulling videos and stuff. I do tend to gravitate more towards male characters. That's not to say that I don't pull for female characters. I mean, I'm using Mavuika right now. I have an Emily on my team. You can look at my freaking character archive and you can see, I do like a lot of female characters and I do pull for them. But generally speaking, as a dude who likes dudes, I like to pull for the dudes in this game. And I'm sure you've seen the statistics around, because I've seen them all around the internet, but there was only one limited male 5-star in all of 2024. And that was, well, he's right here, Kanich. And that's just pretty annoying. And it's not necessarily because, again, I only pull for male characters. I mean, only Kanich has come out in the past year, and I've pulled multiple times on multiple different characters, including a lot just recently, like Emily, Shilonen, Mavuika. That's a lot of characters to pull just in the past, like, few months. It's specifically just because, like, I think when Genshin started out, it was a big novelty because it was a big budget gacha game that was catering to multiple different audiences, as opposed to just an audience that prefers having, women in their game. And Genshin became an overnight success. And I feel that a lot of people are upset right now because it feels like Genshin has turned their backs on a lot of loyal customer bases that kind of granted them a lot of that success in the first place. And have now kind of stopped catering to those people and instead catered to a different demographic. And I'm not trying to say anything about like the kinds of people that pull for certain kinds of characters or anything. I think that's a very tired and uninteresting conversation to have, frankly. But it's definitely frustrating when something that you love, that you felt was like really including you in the discussion and including you in sort of what the design of the product was, suddenly stops doing that. And even though, once again, I'm not necessarily in that group. I don't pull exclusively for male characters. I know a lot of people that do, and I don't really think there's anything wrong with that necessarily, unless they're doing it for like, you know, misogynistic reasons. And in that case, there is an issue with that. But most people that I know, at least, are not like that, thankfully. But this is getting off topic now. What I'm trying to say is that even though I'm not necessarily in that group, I definitely understand why people feel that way, and I definitely understand. Even if you aren't someone who has a particular preference one way or another when it comes to the kinds of characters that you pull, a lot of people just really like Genshin because of the diversity of the characters that they release. I'm using that term diversity in a very specific sense because obviously in some ways Genshin has very little diversity in the skin tone department in particular, which is another issue that I think a lot of people are having, you know, is contributing to this sort of burnout, is that people were expecting, you know, more diversity from Natlan than we ended up getting, which is another issue that I'm probably not super qualified to talk about personally, but there's a lot of very intelligent people online talking about it, and I suggest you go check out what they say. Yeah, overall, there's definitely been sort of a decrease in character diversity when it comes to just like unique qualities that characters have. It feels like a lot of the recent characters have been pretty one note, and you know, that necessarily wouldn't be an issue on its own. There have also been times in Genshin where we've gone a very long time without getting a certain type of character or another, but there was always that promise, you know, that eventually we would come back and we would get whatever kind of character people wanted, just because that was the nature of the game. But I think recently people have become more and more pessimistic about whether that would ever happen. For instance, oh my god, Paimon, stop! For instance, when Genshin released that set of silhouettes for characters that are going to be coming out, you know, this year, there was two characters who were easily identifiable as male characters, and rumor on the streets, aka leaks — I don't talk about leaks on this channel very much because I don't like to, but just for the sake of conversation, you know, everything I'm about to say is not confirmed and therefore not really worth getting upset about quite yet. But if they turn out to be true, then I do think that there is something to be upset about, which is that it seems that those two male characters are set to be 4 stars. And while not all 4 stars in Genshin are terrible, they're also not great and tend to just get a lot less love from the game itself than 5 stars do. And that kind of upsets people in general. There's also a pretty large player base that considers Genshin to have gone down more of a how do I say this tactfully? Like a sexualization route for its female characters than it has before, maybe making that sort of appeal a lot more overt as opposed to more subtle or more sporadic. And that's another issue I've seen voiced a lot. You know, and that's something that affects like a lot of people, including other, you know, women who might play this game who don't necessarily want to see female characters in that light. And I think it's something that Genshin has been pretty good at avoiding generally in the past. It's always been there and it's always, you know, been observable, but it's been more overt, I think, or at least not quite as common or constant. And so that gets people as well. Again, the things I'm talking about are just general observations about what I've seen people discuss online, not necessarily things I believe one way or another, or things that I don't believe one way or another. I do just think it's important to be having conversations like these and expressing your opinions, and that goes for you as well. Feel free to, you know, mention in the comments whether you disagree or agree with anything I'm saying about the game, and, you know, just mention your opinions, because once again, it is a game that theoretically should take player feedback pretty seriously, although we've seen in the past that that's not necessarily true. But even outside of just design or gender of a character, which, despite being pretty superficial in the real world, is pretty significant when it comes to Genshin, because, you know, these characters aren't real people. So their design and their gender and stuff has a lot to do with where people appreciate them for certain reasons or not. There's another reason that personally has been the biggest thing that's affecting my enjoyment of the game when it comes to characters. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. And that is just the quality of the character writing. I believe that the quality of Natlan's story writing has decreased from the Sumeru and Fontaine days. I'm not here to discuss this because it's a very controversial topic online and people have a lot of opinions that I don't really want to contribute to. But that is my opinion. I'm not going to discuss the specifics as to why I feel that way, but I do. With that being said, I think the character writing has also decreased in quality when it comes to just like how characters are written, what their profile stories are like, and how unique and interesting and individual they feel within the world of Teyvat. If we look at all of the Natlan characters that we have encountered so far, there has only been one that I have felt genuine endearment by, or two. Whenever they were on my screen, I was delighted to have them there and felt actual, enjoyment when they were talking and when it was a part of their story and stuff. And literally every single other character I was extremely ambivalent about. I basically just couldn't care less for most of the characters in Natlan. Nothing about them was particularly endearing to me or engaging or maybe really feel like I cared about what they were saying or doing or feeling. And that one character that I felt very positively about was Auroron. Auroron is a great character in Genshin, I feel. The best we've gotten in a while. Unfortunately, Auroron ended up being a 4-star, and a pretty niche 4-star at that, although pretty strong in that niche, so I'm not complaining in that aspect. I think strong niche 4-stars are much better than mid-tier generalist 4-stars. But because he's a 4-star, he kind of just came and went. He kind of just like was there and then was not there, because he didn't get a lot of promotional material, he didn't get a story quest, he didn't really get anything. Even now that Sitlali is out, I don't even think he appeared in Sitlali's story quest, which is pretty crazy because those two are usually attached at the hip when it came to the Archon quest. And it just kind of meant that Auroron, who was a character that I enjoyed so much and easily the standout character in Natlan's Archon quest for me, felt very brief and not enough for me to really feel like I was not enough to invest me into the story of Natlan as a whole, or just the experience of Natlan as a whole. If you compare that to regions like Fontaine, where I absolutely adored Farina and Neviette, and they were, obviously major parts of that Archon quest. And even if I didn't like the story of Fontaine, which I did, I thought it was pretty good. Even if I hadn't enjoyed it, I would have still been so excited to do it purely for the appeal of seeing, how Farina and Neviette, how those characters were going to play out. And even with smaller characters in Fontaine, there were so many that I enjoyed. Navia also had a very large role, and I felt very similarly about, but even characters that had relatively smaller roles, like Ridesley and like Linny, I was so there for, and I enjoyed so much. And that was one thing that I was missing in Natlan. Again, I just didn't really care about these characters. I thought that they were very flat, they were very one note, and they didn't have a huge amount of emotional depth, and I therefore just didn't really care about them. And that was something that really affected the way that I experienced the region, because I just don't think that that's, what Genshin should be. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Genshin is a game in which the product that they're selling you are the characters. And obviously what comes first and foremost is design. I recognize that. But what comes secondary, but also very importantly, is how the character actually acts when they're on your screen. And that was just very disappointing for me in Natlan, I guess. I wish that I could express what I'm feeling a little bit more eloquently. I did write some very quick reactions to the Archon quest down on my Tumblr, and I did mention that I might make a video, an actual scripted video, talking about my thoughts and stuff like that, and while I might, as of right now, I kind of just don't want to. Once again, a lot of the things that I would say have just been said so much already by other people. And now that the Natlan Archon quest is over, I kind of just want to move on instead of kind of like ruminating on the past, and just kind of hope that the future of Genshin is brighter than the present. Because as of right now, I'm really only playing out of a sense of like obligation. I log in every day, I do dailies, I'll save an event until the last day, and then I'll do it all in one go, and I'll skip all of the dialogue in an event unless it's voiced. And then I'll kind of, immediately log off, and it's probably an average of like 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay a day. And that's it. That's kind of my experience with the game. And the issue is, I don't know. I'm stuck in an awkward place with this game, which is that I really truly believe and want to believe that it will go back to how it was. That we will get better story content, that we will get better character content, that we will get, whatever it is that made Genshin so appealing these past 4 years. I mean, like, to give you some context, I have been playing Genshin since the first day. I think there have been 2 times since launch, right? I think there have been 2 individual circumstances in which I haven't played for a prolonged period of time. One was during the initial Albedo event, and that was purely because that was like early into my time at college, and I was just like had other things going on, and it just kind of fell off my radar. Second time was like in the middle of Inazuma during that Watatsumi event. And that was also just because I was busy and Genshin was kind of boring at that time. So I didn't really play a lot. Aside from that, those were both like 2 or 3, maybe like a month-long periods. I've played Genshin almost every single day other than that. So like, I've always considered myself relatively like routine when it comes to this game. I've always felt a motivation to log in every day, even when there wasn't a huge amount on the horizon that I wanted, because I always had this sense, as I was talking about before, that even if what was going on in Genshin right now was not that exciting to me, something in the future would be. Eventually, we'd get to a point where I was, excited to be playing the game again, and was excited to do whatever was next on the Genshin docket. And as I was saying, like, I do truly want to believe that will happen, that Genshin will go back to being whatever it was before that made it so appealing to me. But seeing so many people react very similar to me, and seeing just the general direction the game is going in, it's not super reassuring, but that will happen. And while I want to believe, and while I want to trust that it will, it puts me in this awkward position where it's like, as far as the game has gone, I have always played it daily because I want to, because there was just stuff that I was looking forward to, or I know that stuff would come up that I would look forward to. And this is the first time in all my time playing Genshin where I truly don't know if that's true. I truly don't know if it is worth logging on every day anymore, or if I should just only log on when there's something going on that I actually enjoy. Because on one hand, I want to have the Primogems to pull for the characters that I want, and I can only do that as someone who's relatively free to play, aka I pay for Welkin when I play a lot. I can only do that by logging on every day and doing dailies. But at the same time, like, is there a point in doing that? Because if I'm not going to be pulling that many characters, if I'm not going to be playing that much because I don't enjoy the game anymore, I'm not going to be using a lot of characters, so I'm going to have even less motivation to pull them. Like, I don't know. I don't know if I should log on every day. I don't know if I should just stop and come back when something else exciting happens, or what. At this point, Genshin is so routine for me that it's hard to make that decision, and it's kind of hard to let go or continue. And I don't mean let go as if it was like that big a deal, like it's gonna like emotionally ruin me. Honestly, I'm not like that attached to this game. Like, if I make the decision to stop playing, I just will, and that'll be that. That's pretty much it. But it kind of sucks because there was a time when I enjoyed this game a lot, and right now I don't really get that enjoyment out of it. And I don't know what decision I should make. I feel like I spent a lot of this video talking about like the whole gender stuff with the characters. And while I definitely think that's an interesting topic of conversation, and while I do think that people who, you know, have preferences in that regard when it comes to characters are valid, or that there's a decent amount of validity to saying that kind of stuff, I don't want to make it seem like that's like a huge thing in Genshin. I don't know. It's always a pretty, like, it's a topic that's kind of difficult to approach because there is a lot of like toxicity around it, I guess. Obviously, like, there's the obvious toxicity, which is like misogyny, which is always a part of these conversations, because there's always at least one bozo who's talking about this kind of thing who's just a misogynist and is not contributing to the conversation meaningfully. But you know, it's hard because then a lot of people just get really into it and they get really invested in stuff, and it gets to be too much. And basically what I'm trying to say is there's a lot more issues in Genshin than that. I think that for a lot of people that is the main issue, and I think that that's fine. Everybody's allowed to want to play these games for whatever reason. And that I just want to express that there's a lot more. And I tried to cover some of it. Just the general feeling of apathy, I guess, towards the game right now because of a lot of the choices they're making. I think one of the things that's really funny that I keep seeing online, this is not a topic that I'm particularly knowledgeable about, but I keep seeing like revenue reports for other gacha games, you know, compared to Genshin. And it, the one that's like topping all the charts right now is, I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of it. It's like, I guess it's an otome game, like a, you know, a dating kind of game called Love in Deep Space. Which is a game made for women where all of the love interests are men. And it's like topping all the revenue charts, like even in China and stuff, which I think is interesting, right? Because it means that there is a massively underserved demographic of female gacha players who want to be catered to specifically, which is cool in my opinion, right? Because it's not very common that you get video games. We get a lot of things in general, but especially when it comes to entertainment, but video games specifically that are like catered to women, especially romantic things that are catered to women, or things where like a lot of the appeal of sort of the product or whatever is based off of like attraction. The otome games are very popular. There's a lot of them.
Really necessary?
And they always kind of do perform pretty well. I mean, HoYo have their own otome game, Tears of Themis. I don't know much about it, but it's still going. It's been like 4 years, so obviously they're doing something right. But I do think it's interesting that we're in a sort of era where the #1 gacha game, from what I understand in the world right now, at least for the past few months, is a game that's explicitly catering to women. And I wonder if that's going to affect HoYo at all when it comes to the way that they design male characters or the frequency at which they put them out. Once again, I think that Genshin got a lot of notoriety and a lot of success in the first place because it cast a very wide net. It appealed to many, many people, many demographics who enjoyed many different kinds of characters. One of those was obviously releasing male characters to appeal to female gamers, or I guess to a smaller part, queer male gamers, but let's be real. Probably for a Chinese company, the main the main demographic in that sense was female gamers, which is great. I forget why I brought this up. I think I just read something about it this morning and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's cool. But other than that, to finish off this video, because it's been going on much longer than I thought it would, I want to give some recommendations to HoYo, even though they're obviously not watching this, and I don't expect that they are, but I'm going to give it anyway, because I think it's interesting to talk about. #1, Genshin needs to do something new ASAP. There's been some interesting stuff going on in Genshin, generally, but nothing has ever felt fresh in a very, very long time. A lot of what is talked about a lot in this game in terms of like exciting stuff, things people are excited to do or see or participate in when it comes to this game, don't feel new. It just feels like improved versions of what has come before, if that makes sense. A lot of like story stuff, a lot of quality of life stuff, a lot of even like character stuff. You know, you can point to Natlan and say that the characters in Natlan are the most impressive when it comes to an animation standpoint. Some people will disagree with you. Some people will agree. But largely speaking, while that is definitely exciting that the general fidelity of the game is improving as we go along, that's been happening since the game started. The game has just gotten more and more high quality as we've gone when it comes to the art direction and the animation and stuff. And I don't think it's worth making it a selling point of modern Genshin to say that it's better than it has been when any moment in Genshin's present has generally been better than the moments that have come before. Fontaine was the best Genshin had ever been when it was going on. Sumeru was the best Genshin had ever been when it was going on, etc., etc., etc. I think Genshin needs something new. Another like small like example of stagnation in Genshin, I guess is what I would call it, is Imaginarium Theater. We had been waiting for more, you know, long-term end game content for years, and when it came out, it was kind of just like Spiral Abyss again, in the sense that it was just like stages with enemies, which I understand. When it comes to combat in Genshin, there's only so much you can do. But specifically, it was just like Spiral Abyss again, in the sense that there's like multiple levels and you have to progress through them and they generally get harder as you go. Added into that was like a bit of a roguelite sort of, you know, thing with like characters only being able to be used once and stuff like that, which we had already seen in events a million times before. So basically what I'm saying is it really was not anything fresh or new. And I've actually wanted to do a video for a really long time about an endgame mode that I would design in Genshin that I think would be really fun and does actually like change the status quo of combat a lot. It makes you use characters in a different way. Let me know if you would want to see that video, because I do think that I would want to make it eventually. But yeah, Genshin needs to do something new permanent content that stays in the game forever. New way of approaching characters, new, like, I don't know. Another thing is like when characters come out now, each region has had like a gimmick, right? Fontaine had like the Numa Osea thing, but also the HP mechanics thing. Natlan has Night Soul, and generally speaking, people have not liked these mechanics. Especially Night Soul was a huge miss in my opinion, because it is a feature that is unobtainable by any other character. At least with Fontaine's HP stuff, technically you can achieve the same benefits from that, aka like using the Marashose Hunter set with like a character like Farina. I'm not saying it's right to require you to, you know, purchase a character basically to use a mechanic like Farina's stuff, but it's an option there, and Farina's a character that's going to benefit any account generally speaking. So at least it's not like a super niche character that's only good for one thing, because Farina's Farina. You know what I'm saying? But generally speaking, like it's just this big thing where it's like Genshin does try and like add something new, add something interesting when it comes to its new characters, try and give them a new selling point to make them individual and unique from previous characters. But ultimately, it just kind of feels gimmicky and doesn't feel very meaningful and doesn't and isn't appealing, because you know it's going to go away. When Natlan ends, we're going to stop getting Night Soul and it's going to move on to something else, and it doesn't feel like cool anymore. It doesn't feel cool knowing that it's like, okay, well, this is just the gimmick for the next 12 months, and then we're going to go to something else, and then there's going to be a new gimmick. It doesn't feel like Genshin has refreshed its combat or refreshed itself or its identity or anything like that, because it hasn't. It's just a temporary little additional gimmick, and people know that. And that is why... Did you hear that? Oh my god, I'm not controlling my game anymore. Okay. And that's why people are not into that, in my opinion. So yeah, basically, I would want Genshin to focus a lot on just like adding fresh new things to the game that actually change the way that people interact with it. And there's a lot of ways to do that, and I can make another video about it. I know it's a very general thing to say, and I'm not giving very many specifics, so it doesn't really feel like very concrete advice. But it's not really meant to be concrete advice. It's just meant to be like a philosophy that I want Genshin to adopt going forward, which I feel like has been lacking recently. But yeah, that's probably going to be it for this video. I don't want this video to be an announcement that I'm going to stop doing Genshin content. I don't want this video to be an announcement of saying I'm going to slow down on Genshin content. I mean, I might, but I'm not done with the game. I'm not done until I say I'm done, is what I'm saying. There will be more Genshin on the channel. If I stop doing Genshin, I'll make it known. Yeah, you know, for now, we'll just keep chugging. It'll probably be a lot, like, more casual content because there's not really a lot going on in the game right now that is actually interesting. And I don't cover story content on this channel because I'm really bad at reacting to story stuff. Because I tend to just kind of sit back and not really talk, and that's not an interesting video. And I don't have face cam, so it's not really interesting to do reaction stuff. With that being said, there is a few videos that I was thinking of doing for Genshin, so let me know if you would want to see those videos. I'll mention some of them. Number one, I want to do a video covering Genshin exploration and why it's fake. Basically, I have this thought process, right? Which is that Genshin exploration is not actually exploration, or at least it's not meaningful exploration. And it's kind of just filler. I mean, it is filler. Any exploration is filler because it's not main content. But specifically, Genshin's exploration, it's not it. It's not it, bro. There's issues there. And I want to do that video, specifically comparing it to some of the, you know, great exploration games of our age, like Skyrim and other games like that. So let me know if you want to see that. Another one that I want to do is I want to talk about every region. Now that we've finished with the Natlan Archon quest, I want to talk about every region and like compare them in certain superlatives or in certain like categories. Basically saying, I don't know if you can hear that noise my computer's making, like multiple errors in a row. I'm sorry if you can. I don't know what's happening. Basically, I want to talk about every nation and talk about where they excelled and where they didn't excel, where they kind of failed. Because I think it would be fun to, oh my god, Paimon. Because I think it would be fun to just kind of look back on nations and see like where their strengths were and where their weaknesses were. And my last video idea that I really want to do is I want to do one talking about all of this like banner rerun nonsense that Genshin has been doing recently. You know what I'm talking about. Not rerunning Shenhe for 2 years, not rerunning Ridsley even once after his debut for over a full year. Like this kind of like stuff that's ridiculous. Not rerunning Charlotte, a 4-star, since Farina's original banner. It's been well over a year, right? Like this stuff that I just think it's dumb. And I want to talk about it because I think that there's this growing mindset that the banner issues are a symptom of the way that Genshin does banners. People are like, oh, Genshin need to change the way they need to do their banners so that these issues don't happen anymore. The thing is, there is no issue with the banner system. Characters disappearing for years on end is not a symptom, it's a feature, right? It's purposeful. They know what they're doing. And I want to talk about it because I feel like more and more often I see people recommending that Genshin change their banner system in one way or another. And I think those are valid changes, and it definitely would alleviate some of the issues that we have. But I feel like people are coming at this issue with the wrong mindset, which is less about it being an issue that needs to be fixed and more about it being an ideological choice that Genshin has when it comes to its marketing and its profiting structure that needs to change because it's extremely consumer anti-friendly and frankly makes the game experience bad. So that's another one. Obviously you can tell that's the one I'm the most passionate about because I talked about it the most. But let me know if you're interested in any of these videos. Not that anyone's going to be watching. This video is like 35 minutes long already. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to end it. It's going to be done here and I'm not going to do more. It's gonna be over, okay? The video's done now. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you did something else while you listened to me talk, like, you know, played Genshin or I don't know, drew something or built some Lego. I don't know. What do you guys do for fun? Hopefully you did something else, because if you just sat here and watched me play this, then you have the attention span of an absolute genius. I'm saying it. Like, if you sat here for 35 minutes, listen to me talk, and watch me do nothing in Genshin, your attention span is, they need to study you, because you're incredible. With that said, please let me know if you agree or disagree with anything that I said. Again, half of this was things I believed, half of this is just my reactions to things that have been said online. I'd be more than happy to talk more about any of what I am saying in the comments. And have a you know, a two-person discussion down there. It'll be fun. And if you guys have any like follow-ups or any questions for me or anything, do leave them in the comments, because there's a chance I could do a video like this again, talking about your responses to things. We'll do like a little back and forth dialogue between the two of us if you guys are interested in that. It just depends on how many people discuss stuff in the comments. Yeah, with that being said, I hope that all of you guys are finding fun in the game where you can, and if you are enjoying Natlan and its characters and the story and the game in general, even when very many people are being very vocal online about not enjoying it, that's fine. Don't let other people ruin your fun. If you enjoy it, go for it. I'm honestly happy for you. Genuinely, I'm happy for you. So yeah, that's going to be it, because I'm just going to keep talking if I keep going. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. I already told you to comment, so I won't say that again. Please subscribe if you're into it. I'd like to reach 5,000 subscribers. That'd be pretty cool. So do so. Help me out, will you? I'm being very desperate right now, so I hope that you feel bad for me and do it. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Later!